Hey, welcome to 2021, our first YouTube Live of this brand new year. It's like a blank canvas, you guys, and we get to put whatever's on it. We're going to make it a great year. How about that? Well, welcome from all over the world, Maria. We've got Amy. Hi, Amy, in New York. The Trimpers from Chicagoland, where I know it's nice and warm. And who else we got here? James, yep, from Cornwall, of course. Pavel. Who else is in there? Ellen and Yvette. Okay, thank you guys for joining us. We did move to a new day. We are changing our format around a little bit, so hope it works fine for everybody. We've got we'll get into the newsy part of this show a little bit later. Okie dokie, before I forget, well, let's just start at the beginning. I'm Marc Silber here in Carmel, California, educator, author, photographer. And don't forget, you guys, please subscribe so you don't miss any of the shows. Enable the bell. Okay. Well, this show is brought to you by our friends at Bay Photo Lab, right? So here's what's cool. 15% off of anything. Anything. That says anything. You guys know how important it is to put your stuff into print, whether it's something you hang on the wall or you could make a calendar, which is 35% off. I love making calendars. You better hurry because, the year's started, but you're going to get a big whopping 35% off. That's a cool thing to do. I think it's a great way to keep your photos around and get people to see them, and it's a really cool gift. Anyway, head on over when we're done with the show. Order something from Bay Photo. Listen, here's the cool thing. And that 15% off is really great. So, for gifts for friends, I get my photos that I've taken of them, the really cool ones, and I order a print that's framed, and Bay Photo takes care of the whole thing. They ship it off to them. It's really awesome, and you get a great price on it. So, okay, you guys? All right. Well, we are gonna just jump into my story here. So, we like to start off with stories. Okay, so here's the story, you guys. Going to Paris, I think this was, what year were we? Yeah, 2005. And, I wanted to photograph the Eiffel Tower in a way that didn't look like a postcard. So I was going to use this photograph in one of my books. I think it was Create. I thought it was interesting because of the night scene. You can still tell it's the Eiffel Tower. It has those clouds in it. I had it actually ready to go. And for some reason, I decided, I don't know, maybe somebody tipped me off on this. Hey, Mark, you better check out the laws on copyright of the Eiffel Tower. I'm like, what do you mean? How can they copyright the Eiffel Tower? Well, they can and have. And the original copyright was from the date that it was built. Jared, what was that date when the Eiffel Tower was built? We were just talking about that.
Yeah, it was like 1920 something.
20
it was.
something.
Oh wait, no. Construction started in 1887.
Okay. Well, anyways, so that copyright ran up in 1993. It runs 70 years. Okay. So 1993, that copyright ran up. However, in 1985, they installed lights in the Eiffel Tower. And guess what? It started a whole new copyright. So if you publish a photograph of the Eiffel Tower at night, you need to go through their whole permission process. So I said, I don't want to mess with that. So I just went back to my catalog and I looked in it and I went, well, okay, let me get that up. I must have I know I took a lot of photographs of the Eiffel Tower. I wonder if I got something else that would be cool to use. So I scrapped that one. Whoops, come on back here. There we go. And I found this one. I made it into black and white. And I actually think it's a better photograph anyway. So moral to the story, guys, before you publish something, do check out. Make sure you know the laws that apply. But, from an artistic standpoint, too, it's always tricky to photograph something that is an iconic site, whether it's the Eiffel Tower or a national monument or a landmark or whatever, like in Yosemite, and try to figure out. You've heard me talk about it, from an angle standpoint. I did angle it. There were those cool clouds up there. I developed this in Silver Effects Pro, black and white processing, which we're going to have a class on. I'm hoping that's really soon. I'll let you guys know. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So check it out before you publish your stuff. Okay, Jared, should we jump into our critiquing?
Yep. Oh, and Lorraine was asking, so is the second picture not copyrighted?
It is not
And
copyrighted because there's no lights on it, and it's taken during the day. You can photograph during the day the Eiffel Tower. It's the night photographs that they have the copyright on. Because, again, the day photograph ran up in 1993. So that's the story there.
which is why Las Vegas can have a Eiffel Tower, because
I guess, yeah. I mean, I suppose.
I saw that in an article when
Is
we were
that
just
why?
talking
Okay.
about it. Yep, because
Because
so
it
they can
ran up.
have the Eiffel Tower, because the Eiffel Tower is, I guess, technically public domain, I suppose you would say,
It
but
isn't
the
public.
lights on it aren't.
Yeah, exactly. And they have a
So-
really elaborate light system. It's not just what you saw a moment ago. You've probably seen it in movies. It's pretty
Yeah.
pretty amazing. Okay, so shall we jump
Yeah.
into our first
And
critique here?
just a quick reminder for anybody that might have forgotten, or this is your first time joining, you can join us over at the AYP Club. Post your photos with hashtag critique, and we will include them in the show. I am putting a link to join the AYP Club. I'll be keeping an eye on that, and we may even get your photo in this session if you want to put your photos up.
if you hop
so-
on it soon, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And our first photo here to kick us off the new year is from Paulo. And this is from a trip to the city in Brussels.
Okay, cool. I love it. Okay, so I'm a big fan of
Oh,
black and
and
whites.
you have Bob Holmes up, I just noticed.
Hi, Bob.
In the-
I'm glad you're joining
so
us
free
this morning.
moment for our friend Bob.
Okay, Bob. Sorry, not today. Okay, so listen, I love black and whites. When you've got all this texture in there too, it especially works great because you've got the texture of the cobblestones and you've got many good things working for you here. You've got leading lines, the street leading to, the mom and the daughter, which is, working well. You have the mom's foot up, which great because that gives some motion to it. And, there's probably one little tweak I would do, and that is I would take the brightness of the building at the very end here, and I'd probably tone that down. I just do a little local adjustment. Dan Milner, don't criticize me. But listen, anything that draws your eye out of where you want it to go, because, you are inviting somebody to look into something, and it does pull my eye a little bit in the back, and that's a really, really easy fix, okay? You do a local adjustment, you bring down the exposure, and, my eye stays right in the frame. Because where you want it to go is just right down that road to, to the mom and daughter. While we're at it, again, Dan, I can hear him now scolding me. Mark, no. While you're at the local adjustment, the other thing that you could do that would be very easy is blur the building and those
This
two
one?
guys in the front. Yeah, just blur them out a little bit. Okay? So you could have done that with your selective focus. That would be what I would have recommended at that time. You want the mother and daughter, like your eye going right there. But anyway, that's easy to fix in post. But good job.
All right.
Even
our
the
next-
graffiti. Yeah, there is some graffiti here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, over there. I like that. That adds texture and just, cool stuff to the...
And it contrasts so nicely with, like, all this looks a lot older, and then this more modern
Exactly.
graffiti.
Modern graffiti. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
here's one from Jeremy, and this was taken at a location that, if you've been there, I'm sure you recognize it, the White Sands National Park.
This is great. Wow, I love it, you guys. Okay. So cool shot. Guy walking, up. We're focused right on him. The blue and the clouds. The line on the dune. You've got this kind of S curvy line, which is cool. And boom, excellent, good job. You've got the feet spread out. It's that thing that Bob Holmes advises us to do. Make sure ideally you see the feet up a little bit, which you have here. And there's something about it. This White Sands is where the original testing, one of the testing spots, I think. Not a great place in our history. Nuclear testing. Got to, we could look it up. But the guy walking up there, I feel like he's kind of dejected looking because he's looking down, and it kind of matches the mood of the place. So you're working with some moods, kind of a mood in the subject itself. So good job.
All right, and our next one, this is from Partha, and they just put silhouette as the caption with it.
Bam! I love this. This is a great start to 2021. Simple. I love silhouettes. We talked to Chris Burkhardt. He said the thing about a silhouette is it gives it a timeless feeling. We're not focused on and Bob Holmes mentioned this too. You don't focus on the subject so much as the form, and that's a beautiful capture. It's just like bam. The line of sand or whatever this is, the dirt, and you've processed it. Super high contrast, so we're really only looking at black and white. Great. You guys, awesome work.
All right, this one is from Jess Haran. This was taken in India. The story behind it was, they said, to redeem what was lost an entire year, was grateful when beaches were unlocked in southern India. I was able to capture this moment in one of the last days of 2020.
It's an intriguing shot because I have no idea what these forms are. Are they birds? Are they pieces of paper?
I'm thinking birds would be my thought. I think because I'm guessing that might be a bird, and it might be one of these birds.
And that anyway, that's a really you've done a great job because they're just sort of a pattern. We're not pulled away from it from the the two people. Yeah, so I don't know. The guy on the right, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's your photograph. I might have moved in a little bit and just not had him there, but that's my only comment. I get it, and there's actually other people there as well. But listen, you've done a great job here, and the sky color is so odd. If you have some notes that you could kind of tell us are those birds and what time of day was that? I'm guessing, we're looking at dusk, and it looks like there's a fire going on, right? Is that some flames down there? Or we're kind of in the middle of the photograph on the
right
bottom?
Here?
Yeah, right there. Very interesting photograph. So good job.
All right. I see them. They've just joined in the comments. So,
Okay.
Che, I think I pronounced it right. This is from New Year Morning Walk.
And where are you? What part of the world are we looking at here?
I'm trying to remember. You should let us know. I know you're in the comments. So,
okay, cool. Let us know.
Let us know. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, leading line, subject, right, bam, right there in the middle. Our eyes led right to that subject. It's interesting how it's kind of diffused over on the left with the trees. And it works really well. You've got a great image. Subject is in motion, and it works. Brilliant.
I think actually, if I remember correctly, Poland. Yep, and they just put it in the comments. So Poland is where this one's
Poland.
taken.
Okay. Yes. So is that Jared was asking? What is making that haze? Is it?
I think they might be talking about the second one. This one,
Oh,
the
we're
haze
going
in
back
this one.
here. Both
Yeah,
of them.
I
I'm
think that's what
curious.
they were referring to.
Yeah, I'm curious what that is on both of them. If you guys can answer that, that's great. We'll pick that up a little bit later. But
All right.
atmospheric haze is a really good tool. Also, what it does, one of the ways to show depth in a photograph or in paintings, for that matter, is through atmospheric haze. So you've got several elements that give you depth in this photograph. One is the leading lines, and the other one is the haziness. So as your eye goes back, it gets hazier and hazier, which is what happens with using that atmospheric condition gives you depth in a photograph. Whenever you can add depth to a film or a photograph, generally speaking, you're going to add interest. It's more kind of realistic. It's feeling like we're there on the scene, kind of looking, even though it's a two-dimensional, representation. With those tools of depth, it really helps build the story. So good job. Okay.
Let's take one from our good friend Amy.
Amy. Okay, you are just
And
like
another. Yeah.
your
I just love
self-portrait.
seeing her self-portraits. Yeah. This
You're
one's
doing.
Fisher.
I know you said you're going to do that as your project, and I think that's a great idea. I'm moving mine a little over there. So it's very clever, what you're doing is you're using different objects to get, design forms. And, in this case, what you've done is you've left the lure, the fishing lure, in focus, and you're slightly out of focus, which is interesting. You've heard me say make sure you focus on the eyes, but you're doing it on purpose. And there's a reason, sort of you're using your face almost like an object and making it kind of like not really secondary to the lure. It just works. It works together with it. But there's something interesting about, what we're looking at. And you're not looking straight at the lure either. There's a nice catch light in both of your eyes. It's cool. It's a cool photograph, Amy.
Mm-hmm. She also commented that she was playing around with depth of field, trying to decide how much of the photo needed to stay sharp for it still to be understandable.
I believe that works. I believe that works really well. I mean, you could have reversed it, but that's your artistic point of whatever you're putting our eyes on the lure as the main thing, but your face is clearly, out of focus for a reason. It wasn't a mistake.
All
Good
right.
one.
Our next one is from Antonio. This was taken on the last day of the year in Puebla, Mexico. The church, Iglesia, my Spanish isn't super great, Iglesia de los Remedios, sits on top of the pyramid with the biggest base in the world.
The biggest what?
The biggest base in the world. So it's a pyramid with the biggest base in the entire world.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's a great photograph. And there's just, you obviously captured it with a long lens. I'd be curious to hear your settings on that. So you're compressing the moon against those steeples. And it's a very dramatic photograph that works really well. The colors on the crosses are interesting because they're matching the color in the moon. And I don't know what was causing the moon to be that color, if that was a natural phenomena or there was some smog in the sky or whatever. I'd be curious to hear some more details about it, but that's a great photograph and well done on New Year's Eve, your last photograph of that year. There's a sort of, it's an interesting feeling that I get from that too because of the colors, the orangeness. Colors, you guys have their own association, and I wrote about it in this here book. And one of these days I'm definitely going to do a class just on color theory, how using color. But each color has sort of an emotional feeling connected with it. Orange is kind of like, there's a sort of a feeling of excitement going on or newness, I believe is what goes on with orange, I'd have to look it up. I don't have these all memorized, but there's a definite feeling from that orange moon that's kind of a cross between the blackness of the background and the orangeness. I believe on the New Year's theme, it actually gives you a feeling like something is happening. Like a pumpkin, for instance, kind of signifies this new season of fall. You can look at again different colors and how they're used, but that it works really well in this image. Good job.
Looks like Spanish Institute in the comments, I believe, is
Cloudy in the
Antonio.
sky.
Yep, and
Okay.
gives their specifications if you want to throw that up.
Yeah,
maybe
400
on the
millimeter
screen for
lens. That
people.
sounds about right. F11. That's you're leaving the moon not sharply in focus, which would have really competed with the church steeples. So you did a great job, and 400 millimeter lens just pulled that moon and compressed it. So that worked out really well. Good choice of lens, good choice of subject. Great job.
All right.
Yeah, adding a sense of mysticism, it could be. I agree with you. I think there's something in there about that. Okay.
Yeah, good question. Jared's wondering if you had a tripod to take this
Yeah,
with.
because we don't see the shutter. Oh, 1/10 of a second. You had to have it on a tripod.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if you didn't. Or something. If you didn't have a tripod,
Some kind of
but you had
makeshift
to
one.
prop it up, because holding a 400 millimeter lens at 1/10 of a second sharply is pretty impossible. And that's very sharp. So I'm guessing he had it on a
Yeah, but
tripod.
great work.
But let's hear from him. Yeah, great work.
Yep. So this one is from our friend Robin Mitchell, who posted this on, it was either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, as sort of, Happy New Year, stay safe out there, was his message with it.
There you go. And yes, on a tripod, of course. Okay, good framing. The mountain, we're drawn to the brightness of the mountain there, and the framing, just leads your eye right there. So, that works really well. And I mean, the only thing I don't know, is there some sort of I don't want it to sound like, you guys, it's some sort of rule that now we have to have punctuation points everywhere. But, there is definitely a use for it. And sometimes they're natural. They're just a bird flying over, or perhaps the clouds part a little bit and we get a really bright spot on the peak. I'm just suggesting that, sometimes you have to stick around, like I've said, and you see the stage is really well set, and you just kind of stick around, and maybe you get that one flash of light on the peak, and that's your punctuation point. But anyway, this works really well, and you've done a great job at capturing it with kind of a combination of leading lines and framing. It's works really well.
Yeah. All right. Here's a really interesting one. So this is from Palio, and the title for this image is The Florentine Caretaker. I took this monochrome photograph while I was living and studying in Florence, Italy. At the time, I was also attending a photography course where I learned both analog and digital photography.
And is this a film or is this digital? I'm curious.
That
So
would
it
be a good question for them.
what I like about it is it's really timeless. I don't know how long ago you were in Florence doing that. Florence is an incredible city. We spent about almost a week there, 2018, and it's a feast for photographers because this could be from the 20s. It could be taken last week. That motorbike is really kind of old fashioned looking. I mean, I don't know how to date it, but there's, and certainly the woman and the broom, there's that timelessness to it, and if it obviously works really well as a black and white. I would be curious to hear if this was film, or processed it as a black and white. So there's okay, here we go. There's the answer. Canon, yes, Florence is amazing. Okay, so it was a Canon A1 and it was taken with film. You got a kind of a high contrast on it. I don't, that how you printed it or whatever, but it works really well, and it certainly captures the feeling of Florence and kind of the thing that is so amazing. This is where Leonardo da Vinci hung out. And I was writing, at the time I went there, I was writing Create, and I did some research on Leonardo while I was there. I went to every one of his museums. There's like 3 Leonardo da Vinci museums. It's fascinating. This guy did everything. He designed helicopters, and he designed underwater scuba diving equipment. It's amazing. But one of the things I was fascinated by was I did find like a kind of a Da Vinci scholar, and I asked him, as much as anybody knows, what did he do? What was his method? And I wrote a little section in there that Da Vinci would go around Florence with a note sketch pad, and he'd sketch people's faces like he would have sketched this woman's face. And he sketched them in various different emotions. He said, when you walk around, it's in my book, it's a great quote, when you walk around, try to get whatever's there. If people are fighting, fine, look at it, sketch it, put that in your notebook, remember what it looks like, so that when you're going to draw it later or paint it, you've really got a realistic life form there. You're not just pulling it out of thin air. And obviously that has a lot to do with the masterworks that he was able to produce. But this is a really good lesson, and again from Florence, where he was, of just don't avoid any emotions. Whatever's there is there. Like this woman has a certain emotion on her face. What is it? It's a little bit of a scowl. She's not really angry. She's not waving the broom in your face, as I've had happen. But, it's a great exercise to go around and just watch people, look at them. What do they look like? And there you go. Okay, who's next?
All right, our next one, this is from Ellen. And she put in the comment, "A walk in the forest, I welcome feedback. Is the light enough of a punctuation?"
Well, you have two places where there's a lot of light. One is at the bottom of the frame, and and then up. I love that effect up there. I almost feel like you've got 2 different photographs here looking at it. So if we were to crop it, I crop off this bottom part. I think you've got a really beautiful photograph there. The light kind of hitting that one leaf. Jared, maybe you could just point up there a little bit.
This one?
Right there, the higher leaf, yeah. The one above it, yeah. That seems to be like really striking, and that's kind of a punctuation point. Then you've got another photograph below it of this little scene. I think it would be more interesting to just move in on the upper photograph. I think that's where to me, that's the main point of interest, because I don't see a lot of interest for my eye in the leaves and the pine needles and that sort of thing on the lower part there. It doesn't really strike me as that interesting, but the upper part with the light coming through, I would kind of go with that theme. Just move in a little bit. Just step in a little bit. Of course, you can crop it, but just try to find that center of interest. I don't know if you remember this, but my very first photo critique from Father Vintner, who would type on the back of my photographs, he said, well, might have been more interesting if you just stepped in a little bit. So that would be my suggestion there. If you're going to leave the foreground, I would blur it out. Because what's happening is my eye kind of gets stuck there a little bit, and I don't move on fast enough to the next part. So I'd probably blur it out and reduce the exposure a little bit. That would be another way to go with it. But I would think just stepping in a little bit would make it more interesting. As always, these are just, it's your art. I can give you my feedback, doesn't mean it's right. Anybody else's feedback doesn't mean it's right. But these are what I'm seeing that could possibly help you, with your images. I'm just going to always say that because there's no authority here that's going to lay down the law for you. There are certain, if there are obvious errors that just kind of get in the way of a photograph, of course, we can talk about those too. These are a little bit more subjective points. Okay, who's next?
All right, our next one, this is from Lorraine, and she went to a local lake to try her first stab at minimalism. It's harder than I thought it would be. Any critique is welcome. She did quite a few. I picked this one. If you want, we could look at a couple of the other ones. Since
let's look at some of the others. Let's look through them a little bit, since you have a few.
Because minimalism is hard to do in of itself,
Mm-hmm. So Bob Holmes, in our master class with Bob walking around or shooting with him in the wineries, he made a point about when you're out shooting scenes, make sure you capture these little elements, and he calls them inserts. So like in a magazine spread, you could have, these are, okay, interesting graphic points. Let's go back to the first one. So that's really where that would fit. That would fit in. Not quite there yet. We're not on the first one yet. There we go.
Oh, that was the first one. Oh, did you mean like this one specifically?
That one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My only little thing is it's not quite. It's sharp. It seems to be sharper on this handle thing that's sticking out than on the actual piece itself. I'm just kind of looking at. I just think there's a little. I'd rather see the focus on there. But anyway, this shows up in a photo story as an insert. So let's say you're photographing this beach scene, and you've got whatever people, and this is happening, that's happening, and you just think, wow, this is kind of an interesting old reel thing. It looks like, it's a crank. Okay, so that's like a little insert. Maybe it's just a small insert that goes into your story. Does that make sense? That's how I see that working for you. But again, I think the sharpness is my only real technical issue with that. Otherwise, you're capturing a part of the scene.
All right. We'll go back to.
How are you guys doing out there in YouTube land? Hey, while he's bringing up the next thing, I got to tell you, please tune in on Friday. Okay, super excited about this show. Many years ago, I interviewed a fantastic landscape photographer named Joseph Holmes. You can look up that interview. And I asked him, what was your inspiration? Because I often ask that question. He said, the Beatles. Really? A landscape photographer? That's your inspiration? I thought he was going to say Ansel Adams or a painter. He said, no, I went to the last Beatles concert, and there was so much energy there that it just kind of, he said, it just kind of fired me up. I just went out of there ready to create. And I think a lot of us have experienced that over the years. The Beatles were such a remarkable group that it became for me the soundtrack of my life. I remember, and you'll hear me talking about this, in my little dark room in my mom's laundry room. I turned it into a dark room. I would play one particular album of the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, and I just remember the soundtrack while I'm working, my photographs, and in the developer and the enlarger. It's just as indelible as any soundtrack. So tune in Friday, okay, 11 o'clock. There you go. And click on it. Click on that reminder. Don't miss it. You guys are going to love this. And Peter Asher not only wrote this book, but he became best friends with the Beatles, especially Paul McCartney. I mean, come on. How many people do you know that could say that? He has his own stories too. So please join me. It's a creative experience. And as I've said in the AYP Plus class, I said, look, I looked over my goals for 2021, and really I feel like what I can bring to you guys the most is how to be more creative, tools for being more creative. Yes, we're going to look at technical parts of photography, of course, but I really feel like that's the real secret sauce that's going to make you a better photographer, a better creative, and a better person for that matter. Okay, so let's back to our regularly scheduled show. Wow. This is cool. I like it.
Yeah. So as you can see, this is John Morgan.
John, very selective focus. And you're using a really shallow depth of field because even those little branches behind it are not in focus. We've got that one branch in the sun. Very dramatic. It works.
Yep. And they took this near another friend of ours in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Aha. Yeah.
So out there near Dan.
Right near Dan.
And said the sunsets and sunrises out here are insane. So this was a sunset.
That is, I hear you. We've got the same thing. Our best sunsets are right around this time of year. But that's, boom, it works. It pops, captures the mood. It's very good.
All right. Our next one, this is from Imre. And they posted this and put the comment, Silhouette Saturday.
I love it. Boom. Leading lines, framing. You've got the leading lines right up to the subjects. You've got the framing. There's a lot of ways to frame things. And again, here in this book, I outline a whole bunch of them. One of them is kind of an oval-shaped frame. So not an oval, but a rounded shape, which you've got there. But the leading lines and the shadows are really what's cool about that, because you've got the shadows going all the way down. And I'm really intrigued by this color. What did you do? How much of that was right there, or did you do some of that in processing? I'm assuming there's some processing going on there, but it works really well. It's like the lighting from that scene, that kind of getting near sunset, long shadows, and that, boom, trees. I love the silhouette of the trees, silhouette of the people. That's excellent. Good job.
All right. Our next one. This is
Who is
portrait.
This guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen this guy, but Bethan was taking a photo with him.
Good job.
So this is with the hubby in black and white at Chain O Lakes State Park, Springs Grove, Illinois. Shot on a Sony A7 III with Tamron 28-75 at f4.
F4. Good job. It's a great environmental portrait. It's in his environment. And, it's the black and white works really well. The F4 works really well, so we're not distracted by the trees. And you framed them in between those branches, the trunks of the trees. That worked out really well. And, it's just everything about it. It works. It says, okay, here I am. this is me. I'm a photographer, and you know, it's a really spot on environmental portrait. Good job, Beth Ann.
All right. This one is
Yeah, there,
from
Jared. Yeah.
Maria. This one's from Maria. This was taken a quiet moment during a kite festival taken in March 2020. This is the last event I attended before we had to stop holding events. Taken with a Nikon D 600 with a Nikon 50 millimeter ISO 200 f11 shutter speed one. It was math equations. My brain's not working, but 1/320. 3/20th of a second. That's the
Three
phrasing.
twentieth of a second. Okay.
It's like, how do I phrase that?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so here's what I see. I see a photograph that hasn't happened yet, but could happen. You've got the stage set. You've got an interesting pair there, but I don't quite, I don't quite see things lining up yet. So this is just where you stay in the same spot and you keep photographing until something happens. It hasn't happened yet. We're waiting. It's like we're waiting for it to happen. The little boy is going to turn to the mom, or something will happen here. The mom turns to the boy or grabs the boy, or there's some decisive moment. That's what I'm hungry for in this, because everything is pretty much there. The only thing is this line that's going, I guess that's a kite line, maybe, right in front of, it's in front of that lamp. It looks like to me. It has to be. Or is that a jet stream? I don't know what
It looks too good to be a jet stream.
I know. And if it's a line, it would have to be really close. I guess it would be close to the photographer. So I don't I don't feel like that helps the photograph. I would move around that. I would move in to avoid that. Listen, you guys, a lot of photography is less is more. Get things out of the frame that don't help it. But what you've got here is you've got a lot of elements ready to go. You've got color, you've got the geometry of the that wall, and the spike things going up. That's set. The stage is set. Just keep shooting. Just keep shooting. You hear me talk about it. You hear Bob Holmes. You just keep going until you got it. Couldn't linger. You were working. Okay. Well, all right. Come back another day. So, but anyway, that's
and it was a contrail,
which is a
so
jet
that
stream.
was from a plane. Yeah.
That's a pretty amazing jet stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just move in around it because I don't feel like it just adds to me like, what is that? It pulls my eye away. But anyway, yes. Hey, Maria, look, just, if you're out working, you got a certain amount of time, fine. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's just a matter of a second. It's just something happens, that little boy looks up and grabs the mom or something, there's an expression there. You could crop it off. I would rather see you move in. You could crop that off, but I would rather see you move in. But try that and see what it looks like. The problem, so the light, I don't know. Just try cropping it. Yes, I believe that would help. It does leave kind of that lamppost, which is not bad, but again, more importantly, I'm looking for something decisive happening, some gesture or motion. Does that make sense? Okay.
All right. Our next one is from Robert. And this is a photo of a Model T passing a Wright Brothers shop.
Wow. That's pretty fascinating. I love it. I like the geometry of the building and the colors and the car in motion. Very effective. The only thing I would do, the little guy, the little piece of the guy on the very left, I don't find helps the photograph. I'd crop that or move in a little bit. I'm just doing it myself, just holding the edge of the book. I think that would help it a little bit. Just tighten it up a little bit, because now we're the main subject of this. There's two. I mean, the building and the car, but the building is, in focus. The car is moving, so you've got that, slow shutter speed. But I would just crop a little bit on the left there. Get that guy out of there, because I think that for me it just tightens up that image. But anyway, there's a lot of great things that you've got working for you. The shadows, the lights, the motion. The building is cool with the lights and the yellows and the hues and blackness behind it. It's all works really well. Tiny little tweak.
All right. This one is from our friend John over in the UK, John
Oh
Conbray.
yeah, John.
Went to a zine fair and took a picture of a friend making badges. I shot it through a circular badge cutout.
Wow, very interesting. I like it. It's you framed him in a circle, which is one of the ways you can frame people, and you got him in focus with some kind of very intent look. It adds a kind of an element of like, what is this? Remember, that's one thing that can really work powerfully in a photograph, is leaving questions, letting people ask questions. It's here we have whatever. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't have known if you hadn't explained it, but it works really well. I thought it was almost like my first thought it was a reflection from a rearview mirror, like on a motorcycle or something. But that's not it. But it's an intriguing image. Good job, John.
All right. This one is taken by James. And this is part of a series on a project he's doing for Newlyn. I think that's might be how you say it, Newlyn Harbor. These are some of the shots I took one morning last week of a boat incoming into the harbor and unloading its catch. So this is one of the photos from that series. I picked one out of a couple he put up.
Good. Okay. So I'm going to give you kind of the same comment. The colors are really great. We have this crane pulling up the fish, and the guy standing over here. Yeah, he's got a kind of a gesture. I think another moment or two, something else is going to happen. And again, a lot of these kinds of photographs are about just finding that exact moment where there's something goes on. It's Cartier-Bresson, decisive moment. You're almost there. It's maybe another frame or two. And sometimes it's just patience. You've got all the elements. You've got color. You've got an interesting scene. And the guy, I think it's going to come from the guy in the raincoat pointing, or, something moves. I can't tell you what it is. I just feel it's there. And a lot of photography, I believe, is that feeling. You just feel there's a photograph there. You can sense it. You know what I mean? You just know it's there, and you wait and wait and wait and keep pressing the shutter until there it is, and it hits, and it's that difference. Mark Twain, in a whole different creative form, he said the difference between almost the right word and the right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. A lightning bug is a firefly. So a firefly is pretty cool, but it's maybe only this big. Lightning is like, and he was the master at finding the right word. And we do the same thing as photographers, finding that right moment. And you might have 100 frames, and then there it is. Okay, so that's what I would just advise you on this one. Is just wait it out, keep photographing until something happens. Okay.
All right.
we take maybe one or two. We might take a few of these questions I've seen scrolling by here too. We take
Yeah, I
up.
think I see one question from Super Silent World we could do after we look at a couple more,
Yeah,
maybe. This one's from Insky, who just joined us over at the AYP Club.
good for
Um,
you.
uh, Story
Thank you
behind
for
this one
joining.
is climbed up a tran with their camera and shot a 10-minute exposure with f/22 with film ISO
Wow.
200. Funny thing about this is, by mistake, I forgot to rewind the film,
Yes, I was going to say
so
this
I
looks like a
did an
double
accidental
exposure.
double exposure.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm like, how? Because I couldn't even think how even a long exposure would produce that. So it's a double exposure.
Yep.
Well, it's very interesting. Okay, long exposure. It's a double exposure. It's film. 10-minute exposure. That's not easy to do. You had to have a tripod, obviously. And the double exposure makes it really interesting. Like, what is going on here? Dan Milner likes to do double exposures. I like it. It's interesting. It's got a lot of geometry in it, and it's an intriguing photograph because of the double exposure, and that worked out really well. Good job. And thanks for joining us on AYP Club.
All right. I've got two more I think that we'll go through. And if you submit your still, it may not get in today, but I hold on to them
Yeah.
for next week's show. So don't think that it's too late to submit.
Yeah, Bob
Anyways,
Holmes
this,
said you smell the photograph. Remember that, you guys?
yeah,
I thought you do. You feel it. You kind of, it makes you twitchy almost like, where is it? It's, to me, it's just a game. You know that it's there. This one, you found the photograph.
yeah. This
This is a
one
perfect.
from Goiten Zen, I think that's how you say it. Cleaning the Stable, a documentary project about a young man who wants to become a farmer.
I think this is a great image, and if you're documenting this one guy, that even adds more power to it. But here are all the things I love about it. I love the smoke, dusty stuff coming out, and the the blown out doorway and the window. Yeah, that works really well. Leading lines, right, leading up to your subject, black and white, the arches, all that works really well. And bravo, we want to see your project, and hopefully you're. I don't know if you're in the AYP Plus group, but this is. It'd be great to have you there because we want you guys to be creating these projects. I know that's a bingo. Okay, how
All
to
right,
submit
and our
photos? Somebody
last
had a question
one.
there.
I think somebody was just asking how they could submit their photo, and I put
Yeah,
another.
there you go. And you just put it in there. Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. All right.
And so our last one is from our good friend in India, Sandy,
Sandy.
and no caption with this one.
Well, Sandy, always good to see your work. Let me move that out of the way. Okay. So, the silhouettes work really well. It's basically a silhouette shot, and of course it works well in black and white. It's a very interesting photograph, and you framed them well. They're kind of in the curve of that tree. The little tiny lights on whatever this is. It's some sort of I guess a religious artifacts, and it has a timelessness to it, which of course happens with silhouettes, but also because it's a black and white, and that's a really interesting thing. I find it's part of a story that you're telling. I love the little pitchfork that's just kind of hidden right between the tree and that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Anyway, good job, Sandy. As always, you're telling your stories well with your camera. Okay, well,
All
why don't we
right.
pick up a couple of questions?
The main one I
And
noticed was from Super Silent World. If you want to we can put them up on the screen. I don't know
let's
if you want to
put
go
that
full
up.
screen.
Yeah, I forgot that we do that stuff here. Okay,
Yeah,
super.
we're
This
getting
one right
back into
here.
the new year.
I know. Let me remember how to do that. I thought I just clicked on it, but apparently not.
I can start reading it while you're getting that.
Yeah,
Um, so the
there it
question
is.
is,
Okay.
how would you rate an ordinary moment clicked with a kit lens and the same being clicked by a photographer with really expensive lens? How should we compare the two photographers?
Uh, here's the thing: it doesn't matter at all. There's no comparison. Uh, I don't. I look at a photograph. I don't think what kind of lens was this guy using a kit lens or a very expensive lens, unless there's a quality issue, you know. But chances are that's never going to be an issue, Sandeep. Um, Listen, I interviewed a photographer a number of years ago, uh, Teru Kuamea. Teru Kuamea. Now, he is an interesting photographer. He's a documentary photographer. He's a war photographer. And he shoots with toy cameras because he doesn't want to take expensive equipment into a war zone. And all his photographs were through these toy cameras, these throwaway cameras, but they were remarkable. Now, he was doing that on purpose, obviously. But there's the extreme example of somebody using, the guy standing next to him might have been using the most expensive new mirrorless, with the sharpest lens in the world, and his image could be nothing, of absolute, like nothing. Because it really is, and this kind of goes back to where I mentioned this earlier, you guys, it's about you. I'm going to pull myself up here. I'm going to pull away here. Just say this. This is where, look, when all is said and done, we have these tools. We have cameras, we have lenses, we have lights, we have tripods, we have camera gears, we have filters, all this stuff. These are tools that we use. We have a whole other set. Those are like hardware tools. Then we have software tools where we edit our photos or we go to the darkroom, right? And then we have other tools. We have the tools of composition, lighting. At the end of the day, here's the most important tool of all. Right here. The most amazing computer, the most amazing, let's call it spiritual, because I do believe it's a spiritual phenomena of you behind the camera using those tools. Let's not forget, people take pictures, cameras don't. Bambi Cantrell said that. You as a photographer, your vision, what you do and how you put everything together and how you capture that particular scene, the viewpoint that you capture it from, the lens that you choose, the exposure, you need to know all those things. But, taking it to a different genre, okay, the Beatles started off the same way almost every other group. They knew like 4 or 5 chords on their guitar. And they sung other people's songs, covers to begin with. They started the same way everybody else did, very simply. And they just kept raising the bar. And that was because they were doing that. They directed themselves in that creative process. And that's what's more important than any camera, any lens. I don't care what it is. This is what this book is about. And I'm going to be focusing a lot of my attention in helping you guys. My goal with you is this. I want to help you advance your photography to the next level and beyond. But I can't advance your photography. Only you can advance it. I can help you. And I'd like to know, always like to know, and I ask this question of people, how can I help you? Because I'm here to help. It's my only purpose. I don't want to just be the guy yapping away on YouTube. I want to help you become a better photographer. And the biggest help that I think I can give you is to remind you, and myself, that we have these tools. We've got to know how to use the tools. Absolutely. There's no shortcut there. That's hard work. Learning, Take your camera out, use it every day. That's a continuous process of learning. But it's you again with your creative spirit, your viewpoint, your unique take on life that's going to make you a better photographer. Okay? And I've said it, and I'll keep saying it all throughout this year. So there you go. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I love seeing your work. You guys are doing great work. If you feel like any of the things that I made sense, if I gave you any, points to change or whatever, please post those changes in AYP Club so we can all look at them. That would be great. Or if you're in AYP Plus, do it in there. I hope you guys join us on AYP Plus. Here's the difference between what you see here and what AYP Plus is. AYP Plus is a series of classes that are following a certain path. And we have a community, a very strong community that we're just growing there. We're getting to know each other, and that'll become stronger as we go. But we're following a path, and that's really important. Okay, so Jared just pinged me, so I don't know if I'm doing something wrong here.
Did I?
No, I thought you did. I just heard you. So sometimes when I hear that ping, it means, Mark, your camera has been off for 10 minutes.
Nope, must have been something else. But we did have a question. When's the next show going to be? Our next show is an interview with Peter Asher on Friday. Definitely check that out. And our next critique show will be on Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is the new time slot for this show. So once again, join the AYP Club. We got a lot of links in chat for that and in the description. Put your photos up and we'll include it. And if you're in the chat during the show and you've submitted a photo, let me know. I usually try to, if somebody comes in there like, hey, I submitted a photo, can you bring it up? I usually do a good job of getting those up. So,
listen, we got a few more minutes. If you guys have another question or two, I'll take it, and I'll also just ramble here for just a second. So yes, as Jared said, this is our new schedule. Wednesdays will be the critiques. We're reserving Thursday and Friday for interviews, so we're going to kind of keep those 2 days open. Generally, I'm going to try to do one interview every week. And I'm going to be creating some new videos for sure this year as well. Some new types of videos. I'm going to roll those out. You'll see what I mean when I get there. But if you guys have any last questions, now's your chance. Forever hold your peace. Do we have one?
This one's from Bang On RS. How do you feel about revisiting locations? Shoot landscapes, and recently I've been feeling like I keep going to the same location and it frustrates me.
Well, okay. You have available to you many locations, or maybe just a few, because in our 2020 2021 we're a little limited. Just keep going out with fresh eyes. This is very important. We've talked about this in our AYP Plus class. We have whatever we have available to us, but just keep finding something new about it. And this really goes back to what I was just saying. It really isn't about the location. It isn't about the camera. It's what you do with it. So Leonardo da Vinci went out every day in Florence. And you could say, whoa, after a while, doesn't it look boring to you? It's just the same city over and over again. You could argue that. But he went out with fresh eyes every day and looked for something. So I'm going to just recommend that you do that, okay? Just get rid of that frustration and just say, I'm going to go out as though I've never been here before. Just pretend that. Sometimes pretending to yourself is a really powerful thing. Just, I'm gonna come away with a really new photograph, and I'm not sure what it is. So that would be my suggestion. Okay, good. All right. So Jared, do we have anything else that we need to discuss before we wrap it up here?
I think we're good, other than, the most important thing, make sure you're subscribed and you ring the notification bell
There it
because
is.
YouTube is annoying. So
You
yeah,
got
if
to
you
do
see up
that.
there,
You got to
gotta do both.
subscribe. Tell your friends. Listen, spread the word for us. Let's grow AYP really big this year. So tell your friends. This is, I don't think you can get this kind of critique anywhere on the internet. And we love having you guys with us. Thank you for being with us. Leave your comments. The video, remains up. Leave your comments, share, subscribe, do all those things. Tune in Friday, please. Okay? Please do that for me. If I've helped you in any way, help me help you by bringing you this great guest. It's really important, and it's our first interview of 2021, so please join us. Okay, you guys, one last thing. Say it with me. Say it with me. Remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Love you guys. Stay well, stay safe, stay creative, and I'll see you Friday.